Benvenuti su Meet Dolcino. Io sono Simone Mariam. Sono lieto di presentarvi Kathleen, la nostra nuova collaboratrice, californiana di nascita, italiana di adozione. Detto questo, vi invito a mettere mi piace al video, ovviamente se vi piace il video, e iscrivervi al canale. Oggi abbiamo un ospite davvero molto speciale, Gerald Celente. Gerald Celente è l'editore del Trends Research Institute e l'editore della rivista settimanale Trends Journal. È inoltre autore di bestseller quali Trend Tracking, Trends 2000 e What Zizi Gave Honey Boy. Hi Gerald, how are you?
I'm very good. And again, my real last name is Celentano.
Oh,
they shortened it in America.
This is wonderful. This is wonderful. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. So I want to start our interview asking you, why do you believe the Federal Reserve is waiting to raise rates? Are they waiting for something to happen, like some type of an event of some sort? Do you think something sinister is going to happen? Were the lockdowns used to keep inflation under control? Because you've said that the new dystopia world is the new feudal system. Can you explain more about that to our audience, please?
The Federal Reserve is keeping rates low because that's the only thing that's keeping the equity markets and the economy going on. It's cheap money. You see what's going on with the merger and acquisition activity around the world. The bigs borrow money for nothing and they're buying up everything. When interest rates go up, the economy goes down. The housing markets, you're looking at interest rates at historic lows. Mm-hmm. So people are buying homes. The equity markets, they're borrowing money for nothing and gambling. Go back to 2018. Donald Trump was pressuring the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates back then because the equity markets were going down. Go back to 2019, September. They ended up dumping $7 trillion into the repo markets, the overnight markets, from September 2019 to January 2020 to keep the artificial markets raised, keep them going. The whole thing is one big scam. What do you have, negative interest rates in Europe? You know, people say to me, Celente, you said things were going to get a lot worse in 2012. I said, yeah, I did. They didn't teach me about quantitative easing or negative and zero interest rate policy in Economics 101 or graduate school. They're making this up. There was this person, his name was Jesus Christ. The story goes that he made a whip and drove the money changers out of the temple. The money changers? You mean the banksters? Oh, yeah, them. And he has his last supper, and 3 days later, the guy's up on the cross. All right? That's who you're dealing with. Am I saying this in a way that, how dare you say the banksters are criminals? Hey, how about that J.P. Morgan Chase gang, huh? How about they've been convicted 5 times of felonies? Convicted. Oh, they rigged the precious metals market. Slap on the wrist. Hey, they just gave Jamie Dimon, the guy that's head of it, more money and kept him going there. Everybody get this in your head as I see it. And the motto of the Trends Journal is think for yourself. And that's what my father, may rest in peace, used to say to me as a little boy. I'd be shooting my mouth off, and in Italian, he'd say to me, Pappagallo, stop repeating what everybody else is saying and think for yourself. So this is the story. The banksters, the military-industrial complex, and the drug lords are in charge of the world. You don't believe me about the military-industrial complex? Ask a guy by the name of Dwight D. Eisenhower, 5-star general, Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, 2-term American president. His farewell address, January 17th, 1961. He warned the American people the military-industrial complex was robbing the nation of the genius of scientists, sweat of the laborers, and the future of the children. As for the drug lords, To me, morons and imbeciles call them big pharma. They're drug dealers. Look what just happened with Johnson & Johnson. All the people that are dying of opiate addiction. Look at all these drugs that they tell you to take. Oh, and the after effects, they'll only kill you, but don't worry about it. So we have drug lords, we have banksters, and we have the military industrial complex murderers that are in charge of the world in a country near you.
Wow. Oh, it's pretty scary prediction with all of that being against us.
Well, they are. They're not doing anything for us. They're richer when they started the COVID war.
Oh,
the billionaires got what? $8 trillion richer in 1 year? $8 trillion a year? I got to see the headline news of Jeff Bezos taking a trip up into the air. What the hell do I care? That shows you.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, what do I care that this clown is up in the air?
Yeah, you're definitely right. You're definitely right.
Yeah.
Why do we have to care about him doing all this great big show? Yeah. But let's move on to the second question.
Okay. Gerald, you predicted back in April that we would see a big anti-vax movement and that the vax war would become more intense. And this is exactly what we're seeing now. We even see it in Europe where massive demonstrations in the UK, France, and Greece, unfortunately, not so much in Italy, but and now Biden wants to go door to door and give those vax hesitant people the facts about the vaccines. I mean, how bad is this going to get?
It's going to get much worse. I can't tell you how many people I know, hairdressers, people in the healthcare industry, getting the vaccination because the patients and customers won't come. Mm-hmm. There's a place right over here. It's called the Senate House, the Senate Garage. It's near the Senate House, which is the oldest public building open in America. Beautiful place. I used to go there to listen to jazz. They have jazz shows once a month. Now you have to show proof that you've been double vaccinated.
Wow.
A friend of mine just emailed me this morning. She works in a hospital in New York City. You must get vaccinated or you have no job. A friend of mine that's a college teacher. You'll lose your job if you're not vaccinated. It's going to get much worse. Yeah. And that people believe drug dealers. Let me tell you how bad and stupid and arrogant and ignorant it is. You turn on the Cartoon News Network, CNN. Mm-hmm. I call them prostitutes, media whores that get paid to put out by their corporate pimps and their government whoremasters. Mm-hmm. And that little arrogant boy, a daddy's boy, or maybe a daddy's girl, born on third base and thought he had a home run, this Anderson Cooper, going into this whole big thing a couple of days ago, how the FDA, former Trump Food and Drug Administration head, is telling people that the Delta variant is going to get much worse and they must get vaccinated. Oh, who's the guy? Oh, Scott Gottlieb. Scott Gottlieb. He was the head of the FDA under Trump. Yeah. Where is he now? On the board of directors of Pfizer. And I got this little shithead telling me I got to listen to this guy. And they're doing it everywhere. They're doing it everywhere. You know, people say to me, you know, Celente, you have to watch your language. Let me tell you what profanity is. Profanity is calling somebody a dignitary. Oh, I'm just a piece of crap. Profanity is saying a top health expert, Scott Gottlieb. How about go screw yourself? Oh, no, Celente, you should take what they're saying. It's going to get a lot worse. They are going to rob us and more of our freedom. Drug dealers will do anything to sell their drugs.
Well, and with all of that in mind, do you believe we are witnessing now in the world, it's a battle between the good and evil?
Yes. There's something draconian going on. Mm-hmm. This is unprecedented in world history. Again, when we started to say, how do you do? I said, I'm doing terrible. I'm miserable. Yeah. Life is dead. New York City, you ready? My buddies playing bands. They stopped playing at 10:30 at night. We used to go out. When I was a young guy, we went out 1 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. You start going out at 10:30. Now you're closed down. The city's dead at night. Dead. And now people are freaking out again because the Delta variant's going to get you. The Delta it's more contagious. Hey, how about it's less deadly? No, we're not going to say that. I can tell you that another, again, it's a freak show. That Walensky, the head of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The average death rate is 224 people a day. It's gone up 26%. Okay. I look back, year to date, January 2021, it was, again, if the numbers are real, 4,160 a day. And now you're telling me in July, it's 224 a day. And how bad it is, and people buy it. Again, the masses are the masses. They're always going to follow. There's that famous picture, a chart of Napoleon's march to Moscow. I believe he leaves with either 200 or 400,000 troops out of Poland. He comes back with 10,000. The masses will march off. It's been going on for centuries. We have to unite the believers in freedom, peace, and justice. Divided we fall, united we stand.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I do agree with you. The masses will always fall for the narrative that the lords are telling them, you know. So I think we need, as you said, to get united. You know, the believers and the freedom fighter need from all over the world. I don't think all over the world needs to gather together, to join together, and to form some kind of alliance in order to contrast and why not maybe to stop this abuse of power that's happening. You know, and to rebalance the power in the world, because. But let's move on to the next question, because you've talked about the US and other countries getting rid of cash and going with digital currencies, because this is another bit of the plan, you know, no one talks about. Will this be the next trend, so to speak?
It's already happening. China's doing it. And, one of our top trends was that China's going to be the 21st century. Think about it. The business of America has been war. The business of China is business. And didn't they buy that? Don't they own that one of those ports over there in Trieste, I believe?
Yeah, Chinese, they tried that. They tried it. Yeah,
yeah. And anyway, they're going digital already. They all want to go digital because they know every penny that you spent, where you spent it, when you spent it, how you spent it, so they can get their tax dollars from it. And now they're in complete control of who you are, what you're doing, everything about you. They're going to start saying, you don't want that dirty cash, we're going to digital. And people are going to buy it. I don't own a cell phone. I have an old flip phone. I started doing work for the cellular telecommunications industry back in 1990, I think 2 or 3. And I read about radio frequency radiation and the deadliness of this stuff. Mm-hmm. They just came out with a study last week out of the University of Berkeley of California. Spend 17 minutes a day on your cell phone for 10 years, and your chances of brain tumor increase by 60%. Where am I going with this? Everybody now just holds their cell phone up to the thing. You go to a restaurant now, you don't have a menu anymore. You put your cell phone down to get it. People have already been indoctrinated. The King James Bible got it wrong. They said the meek shall inherit the earth. The geeks have inherited the earth. Mm-hmm. Look at these low-life pieces of garbage How can anybody look up to a Zuckerberg, a Cook, one clown after another? You don't have to learn how to play an instrument. The passion, the breath, the feeling. No, we'll digitize it. And we're going to digitize your cash. We're going to digitize your life. How can people believe in artificial intelligence? It's as good as artificial flavors, artificial coloring, artificial ingredients.
You're right. They're trying to put us in an artificial prison, if I can say.
Said.
I think because everything is artificial. Yeah. And you're totally right. We need to get united in order to stop them at some point, because you rightly pointed out the geeks, as they have taken control of the world, not the mix. And as like Zuckerberg, or as you said before, Jeff Bezos, why do I have to care if he flies on the moon or wherever, why do I have to care the color of his jacket, because why do, this is a great problem. These people are great problems. I think personally, the way they are behaving and the way they're doing, but I wanna dip into these digital currencies, asking you, what do you think the role of Bitcoin is with the current financial situation? Is Bitcoin working with the central bank, or is something that could work against the central banks?
We had forecasted quite accurately where the currencies were going. When Bitcoin was down to, we said it had to break over 10,000 in, I think it was June of 2020, and then it would take off. And we've been saying the same thing over and over again, that the cryptocurrency market's going to continue to expand until the governments go digital. They're not going to want competition. End of story. And you're seeing it happening in China. China's closing it down because they're going all digital. They're not going to want competition. So it'll keep going up until they bring it down, is the way we see it.
Definitely. So, Kat, let's move on to the next question.
Okay. Well, I was just going to dive into a little bit about the geopolitics and talk about Cuba and what's going on in Cuba, and what is your prediction for its future? And as far as for the future of South Africa, and are they connected?
They're connected in some ways. And the big connection is when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. South Africa, before the COVID war began, there were protests going on all the time. The people have had it. They're living in poverty, crime, government corruption, violence. They were taking to the streets. India, Lebanon, France, Colombia, Peru, Chile, one country after another. In 2019, they were taken to the streets. Then the COVID war came. We're locking it down. You can't go out and protest. And just to bring that around to a whole nother level, when the COVID war broke out on Lunar New Year's, Chinese Lunar New Year 2020, they started closing down places, and they closed down Hong Kong. They couldn't stop the protests in Hong Kong before the COVID war began. And now they can complete control. So, and I used to be on a lot of Hong Kong TV, and I talked to the reporters, between breaks, before I went on the air and after the air. And they said, no, we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep fighting. We're not going to let them beat us. They beat them. Anyway, moving on to Cuba and South Africa. And what does this mean? There's going to be more and more protests. When you go think about Cuba, what brought Cuba money? Tourism. Tourism is dead. Trump, to get the votes from Florida, which he did, which has a lot of Cuban exiles, he put more sanctions. When the ones that Obama lifted, he put them back on. So then you had Venezuela, which Trump went after as well, that was supplying Cuba with very cheap fuel. They can't do it anymore. So the Cuban people are in poverty and desperation. But the Cuban government is clamping down very hard on them. They've already arrested over 500 of the protesters. The families can't find where their people are. So you're going to see protests erupting all over the world.
Yeah.
And the governments have put in their draconian powers, and they're taking control. As I said, the 21st century is the Chinese century. Who would have thought that people would be wearing masks like the Chinese used to wear all the time? Used to make fun of them. Oh, and the reason they were wearing them is because of the pollution in that country. It only kills an estimated 1.5 million a year, and that's why they wear those masks. Mm-hmm. And the Chinese way, you will obey. The Chinese way will be digital, will know everything about you. The Chinese way, we are in complete control of your life. So to answer your question, there's going to be more protests. China, what's going on in South Africa and Cuba is just the beginning.
Got it. Oh. Doesn't look so good, does it? Doesn't look like
it doesn't.
future at all.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Hmm.
But hopefully the protest will carry on at some point. And
that's the only way to beat them. And this is very important. You know, I have festivals and rallies over here. And there are a lot of people that don't like me because I speak out. I don't tell anybody what to do. But because I don't swallow the crap that they're trying to shove down my throat, like the masses, they don't like me. So I'm mentioning this because I have a great security team behind me. Because I know about agents provocateurs. So what they're going to keep doing is the bigger the protests become, they're going to put in the agents provocateurs to smash windows, burn cars, throw some Molotov cocktail or something, kill a few people, and that's where all the focus will go.
And you're speaking about, Gerald, you're speaking about the Black Lives Matter and Antifa?
No matter what it is, go back. There was a thing called the Battle of Seattle. Do you remember that?
No. Probably too young. I don't know.
Maybe. The Battle of Seattle was 1990. 97 or 99. I think it was 99.
Right.
And it was in Seattle because they were having a World Trade Organization conference there. Mm-hmm. And this was the year that they were going to bring China into the World Trade Organization. Mm. Now think of it. Seattle, liberal land. Over 40,000 people took to the streets to protest bringing China into the World Trade Organization. Wiped out. They had these guys dressed up in black, smashing a couple of windows, burning a couple of cars. That's where all the focus went on. Forget about the protests, the peaceful protests, and bring China into the World Trade Organization. And by the way, you look at China's gross domestic product, from 1970 to 2000, when they came in actually 2 weeks after 9/11 in 2001, and their GDP goes straight up. So what I'm saying is, yes, we have to protest. Yes, and we have to understand and keep sending out the message that if there's any violence, it's not from us, it's from the government. It's from them that's doing it. So they take the focus off our peaceful protests. And that's what I make very clear when I have mine.
Yeah, you're definitely right. These agent provocateurs are all over the world. We do have in Italy as well. We did have them back in the 70s as well, you know, in the 80s. I mean, it's an old strategy. It's an old way, you know, of controlling, you know, it's a well-known strategy, but the masses falls for it, you know. They don't understand, they don't realize it. As we said, you know, the masses will follow the mainstream narration, you know, the main narration, the main narrative. And so, as you said, I think few very competent brains has to gather together and try to find a way to contrast this abuse of power. And as I said, these are Gen Provocateurs all over the world, in Italy as well. I want to end my interview asking you about Italy. As you are Italian, as you said, I want to, Italian, your origin are Italian. I want to ask you, because like other countries in the world, especially those of the EU, Italy is in the state of collapse because we have too much public debt. In fact, Italy, we had the highest number of COVID deaths in Europe. We have over 20 million retired people and over 20 million employed. We are inside the EU prison, you know, so to speak, so we don't control our own currency. Therefore, we will soon be forced, in order to comply with the parameters of Brussels and not to be overwhelmed by the constant rise of inflation, to drastically reduce pensions and lay off millions of people. Either Draghi makes an authoritarian turn and forces Italy into the European stranglehold, or European Union falls. What do you think about that?
It's hard to, I don't know. They're going to, the global collapse is going to happen, and it's going to hit everybody almost equally. And that's when interest rates go up. It's as simple as that, as we see it. You're in negative interest rate territory. They're going to keep it going like that as long as they can. They don't care about a debt to GDP ratio. Look what's happening in America. You have a $30 trillion debt. And you know what they're saying? Don't worry about it. You know why? Because interest rates are so cheap, so we don't have to pay a lot to service the debt. That is the whole game. Whatever agreements they make, whatever they do, as I see it, people have to understand that money junkies are in charge. These people, they're drug dealers, they're money junkies, they're gamblers. People call them investors. You know, when I was a young guy, there were no private equity groups. There were no hedge funds. These didn't exist. Again, you have there used to be a great comedian in America, George Carlin. He said, it's one big club and you ain't in it.
Yeah, I heard that.
So what I'm saying is that they're going to come up, the club is going to come up with any scheme they could dream of to keep it going. So where they go, what they do, and how they do it, those are just details of the bigger picture. The bigger picture is, you know, and I remember I was in Italy actually when it happened, when they were off the lira and into the euro. I remember, and I remember talking to older people, you know, that were born in, you know, during World War II and saw it. The line that they gave everybody and the line that they bought was that if they all unite under one currency, there won't be these terrible wars anymore.
Yes.
And people bought it.
Yeah, this was the
because
big
it was the older generation, not mine. It was the older ones that made that happen. And they were the ones that sold that. And then you think of it. Again, I'm born right after World War II. It's not ancient history. Look how the world, look at the destruction that's happened with the wars. This isn't ancient history. We have criminal minds in charge that'll do anything to stay in power. They're psychopaths, sociopaths, pathological liars, murderers and thieves. That's it. Dwight D. Eisenhower, the president that I mentioned, you could look it up. He said, any man that seeks the office of president is either an egomaniac or crazy. He didn't want to run. They forced him into it. They didn't force him into it. He was the president of Columbia University.
Yes.
He saw it. And again, this guy, this is the guy that was in charge of, running the whole Western world during World War II. He hated war and he hated politics. How could anybody How can anybody with a mind bigger than a pea look up to a Draghi, a Merkel, a Macron, a Biden? How could they look up to these little Sanchez? Look at the little morons and imbeciles, and then all the ones under them that are running and ruining our lives.
Yes, this is a big problem. These people have created, how can I say, like a mafia connections. I don't want to use this term, but I think it's like worldwide connections, you know, of
that's it.
Stupidity.
Stupidity maybe from the masses, but they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
That's a big problem. That's a big
They
problem.
will do anything to stay in power. Look at the destruction they've caused. Look at the murders. They call Obama, they gave that guy a peace prize. Yeah. I call him a Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner. Look at that guy they got in Ethiopia. What did he do to Tigray? He won the Nobel Peace Prize. They're out of their minds. They're egomaniacs. They're psychopaths and sociopaths. You know, one of the ways I'm trying to do it, I started a church. It's called the Universal Church of Freedom, Peace, and Justice. So if the God that you believe in believes in freedom, peace, and justice, let's unite under this church. So that's one of the ways, and I've done it, by the way. It's official. Just became official in end of May. And so that's one of the ways I'm trying to do it, to put everybody under a banner, because when you look at the power of religions, and I'm not talking about, you know, what they've done to them, but how people believe under an umbrella. Mm-hmm. So if you believe under the umbrella of freedom, peace, and justice, and putting all the groups that believe in it and the religions that believe in it, to me, that's one of the ways and again, I don't know the answer. I'm saying this is what I'm trying to do, is to unite people.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. We need to unite people with any in any way. We need to do it. In any way, we need to do it. Well, you've given a lot of information, you know, you've given our audience a lot of information. We've really enjoyed talking with you, Gerald. You are a wise man, let me say. And thank you very much for your time, insights, and forecasts. So
thank you. And thank you for all that you're trying, all that you're doing, you know, and it's great that you're doing this. And, you know, let's try to bring this together. You know, Absolutely. Think about it. When they had this American Revolution, the people from Virginia, from Pennsylvania, from New York, they all got together to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And by the way, as I'm looking right over here, I could almost throw a stone. I'm in Kingston, New York. This was the first capital of New York State, the third Dutch settlement. Right there is the courthouse. At that location, the Constitution that was written for Kingston when it was the first capital of New York State, the British burnt it down. Over 70% of America's Constitution comes from the one that was over there, written there. And John Jay, the famous Supreme Court judge, he was the judge over there. So I'm where the seeds of democracy was sown. And I fight for freedom. My blood is Italian. My heart's American. I'm a lucky man. And I own, right over here, 3 of the most historic buildings in America. It's the only 4 corners with pre-Revolutionary War stone buildings. And I bought them because I launched Occupy Peace to bring back the spirit of America. I'm not a real estate guy. So I do everything I can to fight for what's been taken away from us. And I'm a fighter. I had my own close combat school for a lot of years. Mm-hmm. But again, I'm a Napolitano, so, you know, I cry. But then we go right from there to there nonstop. So I cry and my heart is broken because I see what's happening as a visionary. And if we don't fight very soon for freedom, peace, and justice, we're going to be living hell on earth.
Absolutely. We do appreciate your passion and your effort to fight for freedom, you know, because we're all in the same boat. And so let's fight together. And thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Again, meant to make very clear, a peaceful fight.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
A peaceful fight. Because I don't want any clown out there, you know, the government saying, you see, they want to fight. And then they're going to shut us down and shoot us.
Yeah, definitely. Where can our audience find more information about you and your Trends Journal magazine? How can they?
Trendsjournal.com. Trendsjournal.com. There's no other magazine, and it's not because it's mine. Nothing like it.
Okay.
We tell you it's history before it happens. It's every week we average about 130 pages a week with no advertisements. Okay. And you read what you want to read from it. Everything's outlined, you know. But we're telling people where things are going economically, geopolitically, socioeconomic, on and on. And we're trying to help people see the future so they could prepare.
Okay, great. Okay. We'll add that information at the bottom of our channel. Okay, so thank you very much, Gerald. We'll keep in touch. And if you need anything from us, we're here, okay? 100% support to you, okay?
Ok, ciao ciao.
Ciao. Buona giornata, ciao ciao.
Buona giornata, ciao.